Everyone's journey to financial independence is unique. No one is going to have the exact same experience. No one is going to have the exact same life. And that includes my journey to financial independence, the one that I made where I achieved financial independence going on 3 years now. However, there are a few things that I wish that I did before I claimed my financial independence and I decided to retire early. Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to On Cash Flow, where I help you become a master of your own cash flow. Now let's get started. Let's go ahead and get right into it with number one. Now, looking back with the value of hindsight and the history behind us, I kind of wish I had a 3% mortgage. Hindsight is always 20/20. So here's basically what happened. In December of 2020, I purchased a house with cash. And as you may remember from that time in 2020, mortgage rates were extremely low. So I was actually pretty much approved for a 3% mortgage at that time. But I was entering into financial independence. I was going to retire early and basically try to live a life without a W-2 income for the first time. And so one of the decisions that I did make was I decided to buy my house with cash rather than using a mortgage so that I could have a lot less stress in my life. Now, thankfully, the house that I purchased in cash was really, really cheap in a low cost of living area. At the time, it was $110,000, which is crazy even back then, but especially now looking at how housing prices have exploded in recent times. When I was there deciding on, hey, do I take on this 3% mortgage with pretty much like only $100,000 of a mortgage? I think the payment would have been like only $500 a month of a mortgage payment, right? That's crazy low. But at the time, I looked at that and I looked at the value of not having a mortgage and not having to use my investments to pay for that mortgage. And I made the best decision for myself at the time. Of course, I had no idea that mortgage rates were going to be extremely high just a few years later, especially since my entire life, mortgage rates have been pretty much historically low. But now looking back with the value of hindsight, it would have been really nice to have only a 3% mortgage and all of that extra cash invested. But like I said, in the moment when I was making that decision, I still think I made a really great decision. Now looking back at it, I can say, hey, it would have been a smart idea to have that 3% mortgage. But there's nothing you can do to change the past. And I'm still very happy with the decision that I made, although it might have been more financially or mathematically optimal to have a 3% mortgage at this time. Number two on this list, this has to do again with the house. I wish I would have updated my house before I stopped working for a living. Now, this isn't a significant regret or anything, but it just would have been nice to do it while I had, more income coming in from a regular, more steady W-2 job. And I'm not talking about upgrading like, hey, making the kitchen look nice. I actually did that myself a little bit. So I did a kind of a whole renovation DIY in my kitchen, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about more of what you would call in real estate investing CapEx. So capital expenditures, basically long-term maintenance. Stuff like replacing your roof or replacing the appliances or the flooring or the windows or something like that. Something that's not going to occur like every year, but every 10, 15, 20 years, these things do need to be addressed and they can be quite expensive. So it would have been nice to take care of some of the capital expenditures and have all nice, new stuff that's going to last for many, many years while I was still making a W-2 income, while I still had that steady, paycheck coming in. I think this is something that you should consider if you are going to be entering retirement anytime soon or, financial independence. Because if you have all of these capital expenditure things taken care of with your house, like a new roof, new windows, new flooring, and all this stuff, then it's going to be a lot better for you when you're living off of your investments. So you don't have to withdraw extra to pay for these when it does come because you already paid for them in advance using your W-2 income. This isn't the end of the world for me, and it actually kind of didn't make sense at the time in my situation because when I declared my financial independence and I decided to, retire early, I actually moved to a lower cost of living area. I bought the house and I didn't have work already established in that area. So it kind of would have been a little bit difficult for me at the time anyway, because I would have had to find W-2 work to basically, fix up the house and do all of those capital expenditures with a regular W-2 income. So it would not have been a perfect scenario for me anyway. So that's why this is only a minor regret that I want you to keep in mind for your own retirement. It's kind of funny sitting here and reminiscing on the past when I first became financially independent. I'm thinking back and I'm thinking a lot about my journey to financial independence. And that's why I wanted to note real quick that I have another video that I created that explains my entire journey to financial independence and how weird and unusual it was. And I definitely want to share that video with you if you haven't watched that video already. Okay, I'm going to talk about it again at the end of this video. One more thing I wish I would have done before I decided to declare my financial independence was I wish I would have kind of eased my life more into spending versus saving. So what actually happened in my own journey was I practically went from a 70% savings rate, saving and investing 70% of my take-home pay, to pretty much 100% living off of my investments. So it was a huge flip. And it was really hard to really kind of make that transition when you're going from saving all of this money, investing all of this money, to pretty much living off your investments and actually spending all of your money. And what I wish I would have done instead was I wish I could have taken some time and kind of slowly reduced my savings rate and slowly started spending a little bit more, up into the amount that I was planning on doing while I was retired. Because I think that that would have been much easier to mentally adjust to, like slowly becoming a spender rather than a saver. Because the way I did it, I think was all wrong. I went from being hyper focused on being a saver to basically you're forced to be a spender because you don't have all that regular like W-2 income coming in anymore. That's another thing that I definitely think that you should keep in mind when it comes to your own retirement, to your own financial independence. Think about how different it's going to be for you when you become a spender rather than a saver. I just want to say really quick that I put a lot of effort, research, and heart into these videos that I make. And I would really appreciate it and it would really help me out if you could just take a quick second and hit the like button on this video. Thank you very much. Okay, but getting back to number 4. Another thing that I wish that I would have done before I retired early was I wish I would have established a community in the new place that I was moving to. So I, like a lot of people when they first decide to retire, I moved to a different location. And when you move to a different location, you don't really have that same network that you may have had when you were in the place that you've always been, right? You might have a network of friends and family and you could always rely on them or you could always use them for referrals and all this kind of stuff. So you had that network where you already lived, but you might not have that when you move to a new place. I moved very far away and I knew nobody in the new place that I was moving to. I moved from Southern California all the way to Eastern Tennessee, pretty much across the entire country of the United States, which is a very long distance. And when I did that, I did it for financial independence. I did it for early retirement. That was a big reason. I was able to make that work by moving to this new place. However, like I said, I didn't know anybody when I moved there. And so I didn't really have a community to move into. And so I wish I would have focused in or at least had a way to establish myself in that new community. And so now I'm making up for that after the fact. And believe it or not, one of the easiest ways to establish a community is to work in the community. And I wasn't doing that because that was me declaring my financial independence and me retiring early. Fortunately or unfortunately, you do make a lot of your friends at work, whether that be your coworkers or clients or whatever. And I didn't really have that when I moved to a new place. That's something that I absolutely think you need to keep in mind that might not necessarily be financial, but mentally it's something that you're going to want to establish, that if you're going to move somewhere, you're going to want to be able to establish yourself in that new community. Before I get on to number 5, this really leads me to the big question here. I want to know from you in the comments below. If you retired already, what are some things that you wish you would have done before you retired? If you haven't retired yet, what are some things that you want to make sure that you do before you retire? That you have on your list, on your to-do list, that you want to be like, I want to take care of this before I retire. Please let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. And now getting on to number 5, another one that doesn't have to do with finances, and that is family planning. I wish I would have taken more time to think about long-term what my family plan is going to be. Now, let me explain. Before I chose to declare my financial independence, I didn't have a plan for what I wanted my family to look like. I entered financial independence, I entered early retirement with just 2 people in my house, but that might change. That might change in the future. However, I didn't do a really good job of accounting for that in my plan. I kind of just thought, what happens, happens. Whatever happens, happens, and I'll just adapt at that time. If I would have just taken a little bit more time to really think about this and really think about what I want my family to look like in the future, I think it would have been a lot better for me now. This is something that I don't want to get too far into because I know everything will work out in the long run. I know everything is going to be all right. But this is something I also think that you should strongly consider thinking about when you're building your financial independence plan, especially if it's early financial independence, if you're doing it at a really young age, or especially if maybe you already have a growing family or you already have a large family and you know that it is going to change. So I want you to be prepared for that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, all of our financial independence journeys are going to be different, including mine. So I want to share mine with you right now. Okay, I have a video where I shared my financial independence journey, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Okay, that video is going to pop up on the screen right after I get off the screen. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from OnCashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time.